pretty good bids there, but still some work to do. The Federal Transit Administration funded Sierra Vista Connectivity project, which involves installing some more multi-use paths. Kickoff meeting is being scheduled with the winning bidder, Wilson and Company, and that should be starting pretty soon. And then we have the wastewater master plan, which should be completed by the end of this month, and then you'll have some nice reading on that after you just did the stormwater plan. So, and that's all I have right now. So,
thank you, sir. Also, we go to our consent agenda. There was a discussion item for discussion reference the 2024-028 termination of development agreements for Lawley properties. I'd like to have a discussion item on that, sir.
Sure. Mayor McCaw, members of the council, on the consent agenda is an item that basically is taking away the development agreements that are in place with Lawley Motors for the properties. As you're aware, the properties are being purchased by, I believe it's Morse Automotive out of Florida. So as part of that process, all of those development agreement items have been fulfilled by Lawley, and in order to take them off for potential title searches and that kind of thing, it's best that we rescind them at this time. So it's a relatively new thing for you all, but it has been done in the past. So,
thank you, sir.
And if you would review that on Thursday as well for the general public.
Most definitely, yes, sir.
sure.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Chuck.
Appreciate it. And proceed to our new business. Resolution 2024-029 staff report. Ms. Downey. Oh, sorry. Penny.
The donation of the vehicle.
The donation of the vehicle. I've got two. This is the first time I've had two on one agenda.
And
Mayor and council, I feel so privileged today.
After that is through.
Oh, so I can stay up here? Yay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Kenny Downing, Chief Procurement Officer. The direction we received from the council is to offer any surplus vehicles to our sister city, Cananea, if they were worthy of donation, if they're still operable, and it's something that Cananea could use. The city has two surplus vehicles, one a 2000 Chevy Silverado 1500, and one 2005 Ford F-250. That has been determined to be surplus. They are currently running. They're in fair shape, but not of the sufficient quality needed for city transportation, so they've been declared to be surplus. We sent a copy of these two vehicles with their information to Cananea, and they have accepted donation if the city council would be kind enough to offer the donation. And we're looking for your recommendation.
All right. Thank you. Any discussion items on this? Hearing none, go to item number 4, staff report, ma'am.
As you know, the city of Sierra Vista is always interested in developing further relationships with Fort Huachuca. We have been doing this through ICSAs, through intergovernmental service agreements, where it would be mutually beneficial to both agencies. In this case, Fort Huachuca has asked the city if we were interested in performing their washer and dryer repair and maintenance services. So essentially what it is, there are about 1,100 washer and dryers on the Fort Huachuca property. We had our Public Works Department do a walkthrough yesterday just to confirm that it looked like it was very feasible. And when they break down, they would call the city to do repairs. The city would order the parts, repair them, and then we would bill Fort Huachuca with our administrative fee added. And the administrative fee is listed in that spreadsheet that's attached to your report. The mutual benefit to us is that the funding would fund 2 additional Public Works employees to perform these services, as well as other services over and above the washer and dryer maintenance. If they kept the washer and dryers in good shape, the city would have 2 full-time employees to do other things in facility maintenance. It also includes purchase of 1 new work truck the first year, and then the second work truck in year 6. So because of the 2 new employees, we would use 1 existing truck and we would buy 1 new truck. It seems to be a very positive relationship, and we're hoping the council would approve this ICSA at the council.
Excellent. Discussion? Yes, ma'am?
Yeah, I just had a question. So are all these washer and dryers, are they commercial washer and dryers, or They're in the, quarters, or?
There are various locations. One is a large barracks building with 2 wings of about 800 units, and they have various laundry rooms. Some of the laundry rooms have 1 washer, 1 dryer, and other laundry rooms have 40. So it's a big, but they are commercial. It just looks just like a laundry room
Okay.
in an apartment building, but there's a lot of them.
Okay, great, thank you.
And are you servicing the housing,
Right.
Washington drivers as well?
Not the private housing with the officers, just the barracks. the
Okay.
other-
All right. Any other discussion item? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Go to item number 5, the resolution 2024-031, staff report, Ms. Adams.
Mayor McCaw, members of council. The item before you is a renewal of Turf Paradise's pari-mutuel wagering on horse and dog races out of PC's Lounge. This has to be renewed every 3 years, so some of you have not voted on this type of item before. This activity has been going on in Sierra Vista at a variety of places. They used to do it at JR's, but they've been doing it at PC's for quite some time, over 30 years, and Turf Paradise has been doing it for the last 15. The police department did a background, and essentially they background PC's Lounge to see if there's been any issues that arise out of this activity, and is nothing really on the books, and they have no objection to this moving forward. And if you approve this on Thursday night, it will be signed off and sent back to them, and their permit will be renewed for another 3 years.
Thank you, ma'am. Discussion? Hearing none? We'll move on to item number 6, resolution 2024-032, staff report, Ms. Passar.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this agenda item is an intergovernmental agreement with the Arizona Department of Transportation. This would exchange surface transportation block grant funds that we received through the Sierra Vista Metropolitan Planning Organization for what are called HERF exchange funds. That's Highway User Revenue Fund funds. The difference between those two funding streams is the STBG funds come from the federal government and thus have all the federal strings and provisions attached with using them. So the money doesn't go as far, and there are additional reporting requirements for that. The state has a program where they will take those STBG funds and give the local governments HERF exchange funds. So now it is state funds to use, and the money goes farther, and we report to the state rather than the feds. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. And this would be used for the pavement reconstruction on Martin Luther King Parkway.
Thank you. Discussion items?
Just looking at the math, so the city part is 837,000 portion, right?
Mm-hmm.
But just small distance, it used to be like $1 million a mile, but now it's 0.3 miles is like $1,212,000 for 0.3 miles.
Yep.
That's a big difference for road work.
Yeah, trust me, I understand the frustration. When I started here, my bosses would say that we could get a mile of road for $1 million, and $1 million just doesn't go as far as it used to. Nowhere close.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
From there, we go to our call to the public and comments by council, and that'll be it for Thursday. For tonight, we have the CCOM budget. We have representative from CCOM. There she is, Ms. Wilkins. Sir.
Yeah, Mayor McCaw, I'll start. Mayor McCaw, members of the council, annually as a founding principal partner and one of the two primary funders, we present the annual CCOM budget to you. This budget was approved by the CCOM JPA board on May 1st. And then was subsequently also presented to the Board of Supervisors at a budget work session that they had last week, and I thought that went very well. So we have Ms. Tammy Jo Wilkins, the director here, and in support we have Sheriff Daniels and Chief Alinen, as well as the county administrator, Mr. Karwachka, here as well. So I'll turn it over to Tammy Jo, and we'll get started.
Thank you, Mayor McCaw, members of the council. Tammy Jo Wilkins, CCOM Director. here to talk to you about some of our major accomplishments from the last year. Year ending of 2023, we had a total of 90,307 law calls for service, 3,878 fire calls for service, 18,112 EMS calls for service, with year-ending calls for service totaling 112,297. We took in a total of 132,616 admin calls into the center, with 53,399 911 calls within the center, with a total of inbound and outbound calls for the year of 186,015. But we're missing numbers for April and July, and that is because we were upgrading to our next-gen 911 system. On this screen here, you see the comparison from 2022 to year-ending 2023. Accomplishments over this last year with our next-gen 911 upgrade, which occurred July of 2023. What that means to you and to our community is that we have upgraded our voice, video, and text capabilities for our 911 center. There's a lot of really neat new technology that comes with that. Some of it's stuff that we're working through policy development. Actually had policy approved last week in our operations committee meeting. Smart transcription is one of those technologies. It transcribes everything that not only the call taker says, but it transcribes what the caller says, and there's capability now for that to actually translate from Spanish to English. That's really neat new technology, and I'm happy to share that with you guys at any time. The other part of that is the video capabilities. We have citizen input now with a policy that was approved by Ops Committee last week. Citizen input, basically what that means to everybody is if there's a major event happening, and I'm gonna, don't get mad if I use like the football game as an example, but if something really bad's happening at the football game and somebody calls 911 on their cell phone, we have the capability within the 911 dispatch center to send a one-time link to your cell phone. You hit that link and it live feeds back to our comm center, and we can send it back to the MDCs out into the field, actually what is occurring within that situation, basically. What we're trying to do is make sure my dispatchers don't see what is actually happening, so we can take it from the scene and give it right to police and fire and not impact dispatch at all. But it is a live feed, one-time usage, and it's a very valuable technology there. We've got more technology coming down the pike with Navigate 360. That's partnership with the Cochise County Schools, and that came in with a grant in partnership with Cochise County Sheriff's Office. That's also going to be set up in our call center so that if something occurs at a school, they can actually hit a panic button or dial 911, and we get pinpointed mapping locations to the dispatch center that actually shows us where that call is coming from, and it's easier to give that information to the first responders. Wilcox joined CCOM full-time July of 23, as did Bisbee, and that's both fire and police dispatch. So we have Wilcox and Bisbee 100% of the time now. We are in discussions with Fort Huachuca to have them join us on a part-time basis. That would be evenings and weekends. Staffing continues to increase. We have 12 full-time, fully trained dispatchers with 3 trainees on the floor, almost done. So we're pretty excited. Those are really good numbers, and we'd like to be able to be fully staffed by summer. That's my fingers crossed. We have lots of new training opportunities that are being provided for staff on mental health. Mental health first aid is very important to me. I know the job that they do, and I want to make sure that they have the tools to work through whatever is happening on a day-to-day basis. We did bring back the emergency police dispatch protocols, the EPD, so we're using all 3 now. That's emergency medical dispatch, emergency fire dispatch, and emergency police dispatch. We did promote 1 manager and 3 supervisors over the last year. We're working in partnership with the state 911 office to set up and use the RAVE platform. RAVE is a mass alerting system. So if something happens in an area and Chief Heiser says, I need a shelter in place in a two-mile radius, we can do that from the console. We don't have to wait for anybody. We don't have to call anybody to make that done. Our people will be able to make that happen immediately. We're working on adding capacity to the center. In addition to people, we're looking for furniture. And then we implemented a very successful dispatch diversion policy. This is also in partnership with the CARE team from the Cochise County Sheriff's Office. So if we get a call for a suicidal member or let's say a Title 36 person that needed to be picked up and taken to the hospital, we can dispatch our CARE team instead of tying up law enforcement on those calls.
Can you go back
I
one
got a
quick
question.
I'm sorry.
Sure.
So on that one-time live feed, is that recorded on that device's IPP?
It's actually recorded internally in our communications center. And then we can download that recording and add it to the call in Spillman or give it to records so that records can include it in the case reports. But it is recorded. Same thing with Smart Transcription. All of that is recorded and we can save it. It's actually recorded to the cloud, so it saves forever.
Sir?
Oh, thank you. The RAVE, can you say the RAVE platform again? Tell me what that does.
The RAVE platform is a mass alerting platform. So currently the county uses AlertSense. And basically if there was a shelter in place or an evacuation due to a wildfire, that's the technology that's utilized to actually send the notifications out to the community.
Okay.
RAVE gives us the tools internally so that we can do that without any delay.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, can you give me the numbers for the staffing again? I'm sorry.
Oh, we're at 12 full-time, fully trained,
Okay,
with 3 in training right now.
okay, perfect, thank you.
And actually, I've got one on SVPD radio right now, so she should be done in training in about 3 weeks, and then the other 2 should be complete in training in about 6.
Thank you.
Fully staffed at what total?
20?
20?
I started with 7.
Outstanding.
Here's our funding model. What's new with the funding model for this upcoming year is the addition of Bisbee and Wilcox with a total of $2,224,716. And then budget by category, I was going to defer to Jen.
Hi, Mayor, members of council. So fiscal year 25's budget is a little bit over fiscal year 24's, primarily due to that 2% raise that we're doing for all staff for full-time and part-time. Some part-time and overtime needed to be adjusted, as well as the 4 additional consoles to increase services, and some software that is not paid every year, but multiple years at a time. So the contributions are a little bit different. I believe it's about $50,000 each for city and county more.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is there I don't know if it was included in the other document we talked about before, but when it comes to that national average, what our CCOM is like to the national average dispatch type pay?
I believe all public safety was included in that 1/3
Okay.
that HR does every
Right.
year. I'll double check that dispatch is included in that, but I believe it was in the leagues.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
With some of our requests, we're actually asking for 3 additional dispatchers and 2 additional call takers and 1 additional records clerk. And then we're hoping to add some steps in the dispatcher 1 and 2 job description and the records job description to have some retention. If we give them a little bit of a boost in there, they might stay longer. So that's hopeful. This slide is just an example to you of some of the technologies that we have internally. This comes from Rapid Deploy, which is also funded by the State 911 office. This is what we use on a weekly basis when we set up our scheduling for the communications center. So you'll see the days on one side, the times across the bottom, and then in all of the squares like the dark blue, all the way through the white, it tells you right here how many call takers we should have on at any given point. Right now we're running about 5 per day, and then overnight after 11 p.m. Until about 7 a.m. we have 2. So, and sometimes that's just not enough. As you can see, at 11 o'clock on a Thursday, having 5 answer the phone is a really good thing. And then, of course, 4 people on radios and whatever's happening with the extra body, they're probably taking all the extra calls. So that's the end of my presentation, barring any questions.
Discussion.
Looks better than the start. I mean, looks like it's positive and going in a positive direction at this point. That's just good. Thank you for enticing people to stay. Whatever you do, if you're strong arming them, or if you're, whatever you're doing to make people stay, it's good to see people sticking around.
And you make them run at the torch run.
I did. I made it run at the torch run.
Yeah, awesome.
And the Bearcat pull. Thank you.
Also see the great sheriff and chief and Mr. Karwashka in the audience. Anything you want to add words?
Use that show down to talk? Come on.
Timer on.
Mayor, council, staff, and just thank you for this opportunity, this partnership. Let me just give you a quick overview over the last 5 or 6 years. As we got about $35 million invested in CCOM right now, and I want to thank the men and women, the leadership over there, Melissa Clark and Tammy Jo, your leadership over there, because it's truly made a big difference. But of that $35 million, I'd say about $32 million of it came out of grants. So it's cost this body or the county body very little at most. About $2 million came out of the automated dispatch for fire. That came out of the COVID relief funds. And the rest came through grants and private funding. So again, we're blessed in this community to have that. But I want to share something I think is really innovative after my 40 years in law enforcement and public safety is the fact that here we've already secured the funding, about $9 million is already in place through Chief Alina's, the project manager on this one is, by the end of the year, hopefully, we'll have statewide interoperability. So under Governor Ducey, about 5, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, him and I sat down, we had a discussion about having a statewide comms for public safety in the state of Arizona. So their agreement was to bring 3 state systems up, Flag, Phoenix, and Tucson. Yuma County Sheriff's Office, Yuma County, which we're working very close with, had their system, and then Cochise County system because it's very robust, one of the most robust in the system, in the state. Bringing all 5 systems into one system. So what that means to you, if you have a police officer or you're a system with a fire up north in Flag, that your officers and your firefighters can talk directly to dispatch here. So if I'm transporting a subject mental health and there's on a rural interstate between here and Tucson, as you know, there's no reception right now, and something goes wrong, they have direct link for their safety and the patient's safety. So again, it just goes back to innovation in Arizona. And I can only see this growing from here. So again, thank you so much for the support on this, the partnership on that. Have we had growing pains? Yes. Are we still having growing pains? Yes. But I can tell you this, the mission of CCOM is for the people. So thank you. I'll stand for questions.
Yes, sir.
Just a quick communication question, Sheriff. I know before you could have a Sierra Vista PD, a CCSO, and a state trooper all at Circle K, and they couldn't talk to each other on the radio. Is this what you're talking about is going to help bridge that gap, or?
Well, we're already, there was just a little history on this too, especially for the new council members. I'll go back to your question, it leads into it. This was a 3-phase proposal that was brought out. Number 1 was to regionalize. And I'll tell you, our private foundation that we worked with to get this kicked off did not want to regionalize. And we went round and round on that one. But I convinced them to do it for all the good, because we're a rural county. We need each other. Nobody can do it alone. So, and by the way, that private foundation has done a couple regional dispatch centers since, because they saw the success here in Cochise County. So yes and no. We brought the MDCs, mobile data computers, in every car in Cochise County. We all work the same data bank. To give you an example, when we first started this 6 years ago, Wilcox Police Department was being dispatched, and also all their intel, their calls were being stored at Pima County Sheriff's Office. That shows you how disjointed we were, and a lot of agencies didn't have the funding. This brought everybody up. Here within the next 30 days, every agency, every police, fire, and EMS will have brand new radios that we're programming right now for everybody. That was a $6 million grant, I think it was, Tom, on that one too. So again, the innovation, every radio in your police cars right now, in service to police cars, were given on a $1.2 million grant in phase 1 of the program. That was rolled out to you all at the city here. So
That was the Motorola grant, right?
that was a Motorola grant, yes, and we just renewed that grant for another $6 million under Governor Ducey. But if you go into CCOM, if you go in and you look on the east side of the building, there's a lot of space over there. That reason was designated, we designed that, was for DPS, Department of Public Safety, for us to dispatch for them. The new governor and I have not spoke about CCOM. We're doing some other issues in the state, as you already know, in the border. But so long story short is that was designated for them, that we would dispatch for DPS. With the integration for interwide state, I think we can pull that off. So just to give you an example, I know there's a concern out there, and this is, and Tammy Jo's working on this already, so I will yield to her on the solutions. But is when we put this together, you all stayed on your same channel. So Service to Fire and Police never budged off their channel. Every agency that joined right now is on Cochise County Sheriff's Office channel. And we just had the numbers pulled for the first 3.5 months of the year, and we're neck and neck. So Service to PD and Sheriff's Office both were just over 12,000 calls in the first 3.5 months. Everybody else is about 6,000 combined. That's all on the Sheriff's Office channel. So again, so we're looking at possibly putting a third channel for our cities out there that they're all sharing the same channel. The problem when you do that, and I don't see the real problem with it at this point, the real problem you do that is we lose context. So if Huachuca City has a shooting or an officer down, we hear it. They get their own channel, I won't hear it. So there's good and bad about doing that. So I'm all about keeping the unified approach toward it. We work so much better together. Chief Eisner and Chief Jones over there, and the chiefs in the county, police chief, fire chief, EMS. That's where it begins, and that's where it ends. And so I'm very impressed with what we got going. So.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate the support.
Well, thank you.
Chuck has something.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah, Mayor McCom, members of the council, CCOM is actually an old idea, and Chief Alinen actually worked on our behalf when he worked here and working with the sheriff's office on bringing the dispatch centers together back in 2005 or something like that. Tom, it was a long time ago. But what really pointed to the need was the Monument Fire for us, because we had all kinds of agencies all trying to talk to each other, and I think that really brought together the idea of having the regional dispatch center. So as the sheriff said, millions of dollars has gone into this from private foundations and grants, and that's primarily due to his efforts. He has made tremendous strides in helping us get funding for a lot of this, to the point where you have the most technologically advanced dispatch center here in the state. So, and we couldn't do that if we were separate, and the state is moving, as the sheriff mentioned, to regional centers as well. So we really have a leg up there. So we appreciate working with them and all the resources that have been brought to bear to make this happen.
And I took a tour of the building, seeing all those boxes, sir, gentlemen, sheriff, chief, thank you, county administrator, thank you for what you do. Thank you for just reaching out, getting grants for it. We couldn't do it without you. Those radios are sweet. I think the fire radios are like a light green line. I was wondering why they weren't red, but
They're city colors.
okay. That's sweet.
The branding. It's a branding.
Okay, it's the brand.
City
Okay.
brand.
Sweet. But thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much. And we'll proceed to our balanced budget. Ms. Jen.
Mayor and members of council, we have a balanced budget.
Yay.
So the city currently has 21 active funds. So having a balanced budget means that all revenues equal all expenditures in each 21 fund. So this number can definitely change before the tentative vote, as we're still waiting on the league's updated revenues for the state shared projections, and also we'll continue to monitor any of the revenue projections as well as they continue towards the end of the fiscal year. Also, any projects that are not expected to be completed by the end of the fiscal year are still being added over into carryover. So right now, the total balanced budget equals $150,377,472. So this is a snapshot of the current proposed general fund. So we'll go over the revenue changes on the next slide. This personnel number does include that 2% step increase for full-time and part-time employees, plus the new positions and reclassifications that we went over in the last presentation, and any corrected allocations. So O&M stayed relatively the same with some new additions, including the NERS fire reporting system at $42,500 and the recurring EasyTrack Spillman interface at $3,500. And then O&M does include all corrected allocations. So the capital list will be discussed on the following slide. Any questions on the general fund so far?
No, ma'am.
So highlighted changes to the revenue. So we increased the vehicle licensing tax revenue by $100,000. So we're still tracking the state shared revenues, and this is closer to the actuals that we're projecting for the end of this fiscal year. We increased the fuel sales to reflect closer to the expenditures and actuals. We reduced local government payments because we're not participating in one program that would give us more revenue. We reduced the transfer out to LTAF and grants because there was a lower match for the city than fiscal year 24. We removed the transfer out to HERF because the $2 million was completed this year. Decreased notes payable because we try to cash out the vehicles as much as possible, but we're still going to try to finance the fire vehicle. So the general fund capital list is the same as the last presentation. The only new item is there's a carryover for the Veterans Memorial Park sheds. Any questions on the general fund? The vehicle list is also the same. I just moved the ambulance carryovers from the capital list to the vehicle capital list.
Okay.
So the HERF fund is balanced. For HERF capital, the annual street maintenance, I'm going to clarify, is the $1.5 million that we try to do each year. We added the GPS culvert camera for $35,000, the liquid road buggy for $125,000, and then we are applying for appropriations for BST reconstruction phase 2. Questions on HERF capital?
Mayor McCaw, members of the council, as Jen just mentioned, Phase 2 of BST, as you're aware, we received a $3.7 million Phase 1 appropriation through the efforts of primarily Congressman Ciscomani. And we did apply for Phase 2. I did receive word from his office in Washington that they're looking at funding perhaps the entire Buffalo Soldier Trail project in the coming year, which would be great. It's about $25 million. So we're looking forward to getting them those numbers, and then we'll keep our fingers crossed that he's able to work his magic once again. So that'll be a big issue, but if we're going to spend it next year, we'll have to add it to the budget. So that's why I mentioned that today. So,
that would be awesome.
Yes, it would be a big help.
Lots of changes can happen before the tentative. For LTAF, LTAF is balanced with the new matches and transfers that are reflected in the revenue. Personnel does include the one transit driver that we spoke about in the last presentation. LTAF capital is a little bit different from the last time. I do have clarification on the bus shelter enhancements. However, I'm hesitant to share because they are expected to change after the master plan is completed. So I can give you those stops, but they're probably going to change anyways.
Okay. Thank you.
So the only differences from the last one are the 2 small buses. They're requesting 2 Spirit of Freedom buses that are smaller. They're only 9-passenger buses, and they also don't require a driver to have a CDL. So that'll take over one of the big bus routes. The B2G Now software is a recurring cost, and Transit's also requesting an appointment scheduling software and radios for the 115-420. Grants fund is balanced as well. O&M includes supplies and programs for ACO, software and training for PD, supplies for fire. Like that one is all encompassing, so it's not just all capital. That's why there is a little bit of O&M in the grants fund. Grants capital list. The VHF radio system is a carryover from this year. The border-related crimes is a DEMA grant. That's also a carryover. The Garden Canyon Linear Park restrooms have already been awarded. The city match for that is $29,700. The archery range is a 50% city match, so that's $17,500. And then the disc golf improvements and park storage have no matches. Port fund. So the differences in the airport fund capital from the last presentation is that the master plan carryover was reduced to $200,000. We included in the DSIP environmental study and design for $315,000. Everything else is still the same.
Could you back up 1 second?
Absolutely.
With respect to the airport utility installation, is that preparing the property for Black Star?
Well, Councilman Johnson, I don't think it's just Black Star. It's just the airport in general that needs to make sure we have the utility upgrades, and Sharon can give you the specifics on that.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Johnson. So the airport is in need of utility upgrades to help that facility be more marketable. I can tell you one of the big ones is the airport is on septic, which greatly limits development potential when you got to have all these septic tanks all over the place. So one of the things we would be looking at as part of this is to actually sewer the airport.
Okay. Yeah, and as such, Mr. Boone is working on another DSIP grant, which is what we use to fund Fire Station number 4 to improve the sewer situation. And sewer is not only important in terms of future development, but it also plays into water mitigation for both Fort Huachuca and the city as well to help facilitate that. So it has many roles to play.
Right, well, it was a big number jumped out at me, and I thought we should clarify what that is.
Absolutely. You should ask about that.
Majority of that is grant funded.
One thing I want to say too about the airport fund is the airport is actually turning positive cash flow on an annual basis. We don't have really any debt service to pay there. I mean, our revenue sources are fuel sales, which unfortunately do go up during fire season, but helps as well as all of our hangar leases and tie downs and those kind of things. But because we have no debt out there, it's turning a positive cash flow. So that's allowing us to do a lot of these improvements and hopefully help get it ready for future development.
Capital Improvements Fund increased slightly. We had to increase the expenditure for the public sewer mainline extension from OICC to Domingo Paez. So the grant would supply $1 million, and then the city matches $500,000. So last time it only reflected the $500,000 city match. So now it's the full expenditure. Other than that, there are no other additional adjustments to capital improvement fund. So now that we have the correct allocations for personnel and O&M, we were able to go into and dig further into the enterprise funds. So the sewer fund is balanced. We did add the additional Riverstone grant, which is a carryover from this year, but other than that, it's the same as last time. Changes to the refuse capital or the refuse fund. Same capital items. Any questions on the enterprise funds?
Sir.
Okay. Mayor McCaw, members of the council, as you see, the enterprise fund, sewer, and refuse are balanced. We're still working on the rates, as I've been mentioning for now probably a couple of years. We're going to be looking at sewer and refuse rate increases in order to balance and maintain the funds and do the proper maintenance in the future. So Mr. Felix is working on that right now, and hopefully we'll have something to you here soon with regards to that. We're also waiting for the sewer master plan to come in, which will help guide some of that, as well as our impact fee study, which should help with sewer connection fees. With regards to that as well, we will probably be recommending another moratorium on impact fees. We don't find them to be generally very beneficial to begin with in terms of bringing in funds for projects. So I think a moratorium in the current environment is probably a better option for us. But we will be looking at increases in the sewer connect fees because without that, then you can't have the development, and that's what we're going to need. But all of this will be coming to you here within the next couple of months.
Yes, sir.
So the enterprise funds will be balanced. Will that include general fund transfers in order to make it balanced? Or is this just straight out balance?
Well, as enterprise funds, they are supposed to generate their own revenues to cover their expenses, so we do not use general funds to balance them. So that's why the rate increase will be necessary in order to keep them
Will it be
whole going
necessary for FY25?
Well, it is necessary now, actually.
Okay,
but,
well, yeah, I realize that.
But
Will that be brought to
so I
the
guess
council soon?
It should be this summer. Is David here? Yeah, go ahead, Dave. He's the one working on it, so he can give you the better idea.
Yeah, the sewer and refuse funds, the rate increases will be coming up. We are looking at, as well as we mentioned, the connection fees. They've done a sewer master plan study. It's in review. Sharon is looking at, we're going to have a meeting on it internally as well, due to some issues that have happened recently at the plant. As you all know, the tear in the liner. We know we've got issues that have happened recently with lines that need to be replaced. Construction costs, as we all know, have gone up drastically. So what was a couple $100,000 fix 3 years ago is now about a $500,000 fix. Cash is the important thing. The sewer fund's cash is ending fiscal year 23 at a negative $1.35 million due to the interceptors that have been put in place already. Those will be paid back over time when development will go in. But a couple of the interceptors, like the one at the high school, there's not going to be a lot of connection, and that was over $1 million to install that one as well. We are trying to balance so that overall a developer will see no increase in their connection, the connection to the overall fees that they pay when they do connections. We're trying to time the removal of the impact fees with the increase in the sewer connect fees. So they'll happen at the same date, so the developers will not be out any money or any more money than they are currently paying right now. But we are also looking at, given the situation with the cost increases everywhere, as Sharon can tell you, fixing the refuse trucks has gone up. Refuse parts, tires have gone up. Anybody that's gotten their own vehicle Those tire costs have gone up 40-50% over the last couple of years. That's just typical of all the cost increases that have had. If you notice, when you get your book, look at vehicle maintenance and the refuse fund. That is just the cost of doing it. So my goal will be, and what I'll probably end up recommending to you, is one vote for a multi-year rate increase to spread it out over time so the residents don't get hit with a large one-time fee, but you'll pass, like we did with the connection fees, a rate increase will be 5 or 10% a year for like 2 or 3 years. That way it's easier on the customer and easier, and does give us time to then come up. So that's kind of how we're looking at doing this. And the state law is very specific on sewer rate increases. We've got a 60-plus day process to go through to do those. So we have to pass the intent, we have to put studies out there, then you can vote on it up to the proposed increase, but no more than the proposed increase. So that will all take a couple months to get through the whole process.
So September timeframe?
September timeframe.
Thank you. Thank you, David.
Just a quick overview on the future budget issues: maintaining the class comp plan, public safety retirements, street maintenance is always a high priority, the impact on local revenue from state actions, we're always keeping an eye on legislation, the census impacts on local revenue, and then, of course, the need to increase the sewer and the refuse rates. The economy is definitely always on our list. Any questions on the balanced budget?
Questions, discussion? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, Mayor McCaw, members of the council. Jen just mentioned state actions. The state budget currently sits at $1.8 million deficit for current fiscal year and next fiscal year. So they're wrestling with some issues there. Last fiscal year, if you'll recall, the rental tax was included in the last second budget deal, which incurred on June 30th last year. And of course, we're concerned about the potential of the food tax going away. So it's highly possible that you may have a tentative budget approved on June 27th, and then we're going to catch this news from the state. Hopefully not, but we have to be prepared on June 30th. So that's something we're keeping an eye on, and I know Victoria and Mayor were on a call with the governor's office today about this very issue. So there's still some things out there we need to be paying attention to. So.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion on that? Hearing none? Thank you, Jen.
Thank you, sir. You can expect your upcoming tentative book right before Memorial Day weekend. Little light reading for your Memorial Day.
Thank you for the reading material.
Maybe we could put it on audio, and while you're doing the Summit Challenge, you could listen to the budget.
That's these three that's doing the Summit.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. Y'all are hiking the mountains all three?
Wine Fest
The
challenge.
Wine Festival, the Wine Fest Challenge.
We go to item number D, report on recent trips, meetings, and future meetings. Yes, ma'am.
We just had a transportation airport master plan meeting this past week, and then there was also where we kind of went over and discussed the first couple sections of it, and then that same day there was a public input session, and a few members from the public came. They had some slides out, and they were able to share that information with the public. And so just keep an eye out for, in a couple months, there'll be some more information that'll be coming out, so just keep an eye out for that. And there'll be another public information meeting that will be available, and I will announce that as it comes closer.
Is the CCRN on tomorrow?
That's correct.
CCRN on tomorrow, and I think that's it.
Marta has. So we had our tourism commission meeting yesterday, also, and they're hoping to come at the last meeting in May for a presentation. So.
All right. Any others? That's going to item number E. Echo, future discussion items and council requests, ma'am.
Thank you, Mayor McCaw. You do have a budget work session or a budget item scheduled for your next work session. Since sometimes we're able to get all of the enterprise funds balanced in time to present to you with the balanced budget, and sometimes we're not. We scheduled that one. We were able to get those balanced in time to present them to you today. So unless there's some major changes or something significant to discuss with you, you will not have that on your next work session, and I'm not tracking anything else currently except the Tourism Commission presentation.
Excellent. Excellent. And the council meeting for second Thursday in May, I will not be at. I don't think Chief will be there or Deputy Chief, graduating seniors. So I think Pro Tem.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
We'll try to keep it light.
Yes, thank you. All right.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Too easy. With that, I think we are adjourned for the day.